Good morning, YouTube. Welcome back to my channel. Coach Sarah here with Team Pro Physique, and today I have for you a dynamic warm-up. So before you start your workouts, warming up, getting the muscles and blood flowing, range of motion, mobility, all these things are very, very important to, number one, ensure injury prevention, as well as really help us get stronger over time. You know, if we're not feeling the muscles working, if we're not activating them properly through warming up, as well as warm-up sets as well during your workout, then we're not getting the most out of our training sessions. So I have that for you today coming up at the gym, but I wanted to go over quickly first a couple of new supplements that I've added in for my mini cut for fat loss purposes. Now, first one is going to be Core Burn. This is going to be a stimulant, thermogenic. This I actually take for the caffeine and energy purposes, as well as the appetite suppression purposes of Core Burn. I really enjoy it. It is a sustained release of energy of caffeine, so I don't recommend taking it any later than about lunchtime. That's normally when I drink it, because like I want my energy in the back half of the day. I usually get the munchies in the afternoon, so it helps me keep that at bay while having some good energy throughout the rest of the day. Then I have Core Sear. I'll take this first thing in the morning. It is a non-stim thermogenic before my workouts or before my fasted cardio. Supplements, especially for fat loss, can be helpful, like I mentioned, from maybe like an energy or an appetite suppression standpoint. They're not magical, especially if you don't have your nutrition or your cardio, your water, your sleep, or your stress in line, then it's really not going to be effective. However, if you have all those factors in line, then it can really make a difference in your fat loss goals and things like that. I still have, of course, my amazing pre-workout stack here from Core Nutritionals, Core Fury and Core Pump. Core Fury is a stimulant-based pre-workout with creatine, and then Core Pump is amazing for blood flow, endurance, and a non-stim pre-workout. So let's put all this together and we'll head to the gym. All right, here we go into the dynamic warm-up. First thing up is going to be body weight squats. I like doing these first just because it gets everything lower body related nice and warm: quads, hamstrings, glutes, hips, everything. I do about 15 to 20 of these and I move on to the next exercise. That's going to be a lunge with the elbow drive. Now, normally I'll do these in a walking lunge fashion, as I'm kind of doing about 2 here. But the important thing to remember with these is to lunge forward and really drive the elbow while keeping your hips nice and square. You'll feel it in your hamstrings and in your hips, and also in your glutes as well. It's a great active warm-up activity. Then we go into side lunges here, focusing on sitting on that heel, transferring the weight in between each leg as you go through, and then feeling a nice stretch in your adductors, your inner thigh, while doing this movement. Next up is going to be squat stands. Now, I'm working with my form on this, so it's not the best. That's why I'm kind of tapping my toes as I come back up. But this is great if you're warming up hamstrings, low back, glutes, quads, especially if you're deadlifting, doing RDLs or even conventional deadlifts on your weight session. And so I like doing these a lot. I'm focusing on lifting with my feet, with my glutes, and not with my low back, although it is being engaged to get it nice and warm to prepare for the day. Again, I'll do about 15 to 20 of these depending upon the day and depending upon what lifts I have going on there. Next exercise is going to be low squat with a twist. Now, this is great for the hips. For a lot of people, we can't squat full past parallel or anything, but squat as low as you can. I like rotating and shifting my weight and adding in a twist here to really get those hip flexors. I have naturally tight hips, so this helps me a lot. Next one is going to be 90-90 with lifts. You'll notice I'm putting my hand on my hip. I'm really trying to sit the hip down and really trying to feel a stretch in my hip flexor when I'm doing this movement. This movement is very, very hard for me, but I like challenging myself and opening up my hips. It also helps with glute activation as well when you're going through this movement. And then I'll add in the lifts on the next rotation right around here, trying to lift that back leg and make sure I am engaging the glutes when I'm lifting it. I do see, sometimes that if I'm having a tough day activating my glutes, I actually will drop down and try to do a few of these to really, really try to engage, especially upper glutes for me, which are some of the last ones to fire when I go through this movement. So it's a really, really good one that I've been adding in recently to my dynamic warm-up, especially on, of course, my glute days. Cat-cows. These are fantastic for low back, for core, warming up a little bit also on the spine, scapula area as well. Really trying to do an inhale, exhale in between each, and really, really focusing on warming up that low back, especially like I mentioned earlier with the squat stands. If you're doing a deadlift day, these are great. Next up are hip cars. These are also fantastic. You'll notice I'm doing a lot of hip movements. These are also fantastic for deadlifts, for glutes, everything like that you want to try to open up, because if your hips are tight, your glutes are not going to activate properly. And so I really concentrate on flexing my foot and then full range of motion rotations, keeping that core nice and tight. I'm trying my best to keep my hips square. Obviously, this is something that I can definitely work on improving over time. But again, I do a lot of hip work, especially on my lower body days, because I know that my hips are tight. And so finding your weak points is also an important thing to do with a dynamic warm up, and really trying to warm up those weak points while you're going through your warm up here. Last lower body dynamic warm-up exercise is going to be everybody's favorite, glute bridges. And I like pushing off a bench here or a high box because I feel like it activates a whole lot more for lower glutes, for me at least, and it gives you a bigger range of motion than doing a simple glute bridge off the floor. And so I really like this movement to end on. Obviously, I will customize this further if I have more glute-focused movements, adding in some banded kickbacks and things like that into my glute day, but that takes care of lower body. Switching over now to upper body. First thing that I'll do is band pass-throughs. Now, depending upon how much flexibility you have in your shoulders, you may not be able to go all the way down on this in both directions, but this is something that you can actually progress on and get better at over time. I like using a band because it allows me to have a little more flexibility. You can also use a dowel or a PVC pipe while you're doing this. It helps warm up your rotator cuff as well. Adding in here band pull-aparts as well. I like warming up rear delt while I do this, just to get everything starting to fire, because rear delt for me is one of my least activated of my 3 delts. Going into bandit around the world, focusing on leading with the arm that is moving. And so I'm trying to get better at these, but again, my rotation with my shoulders, because they are tight and pretty muscular, I'm working on my mobility here with these around the world. And so I'll do, some clockwise, and then I will switch directions and go counterclockwise. I didn't do as many of these, but again, it's something that I am getting better at, but it's always good for mobility and flexibility with your shoulders, especially as we age and get older. We need that rotator cuff safe and stabilized. Next one here is going to be 90-90 rotations. You can do this body weight, or you can add in a dumbbell for these. So I like doing these body weight first. My second round, I might add in a dumbbell, but making sure, again, you're keeping everything nice and goal posted at the top, and you're rotating to where feels good for you and not having pain while you do this. Switching over into bandit abductions here. Again, another shoulder back opener, opens up the chest a little bit as well. And I really like doing these with the band, because again, you have a little bit more flexibility to increase the resistance if you want to go a little bit heavier on the second round, but making sure the elbows stay nice and glued to your side while you're doing this movement and going outward with the palms facing up. Neck rolls. A lot of us carry tension in our necks and our traps, and so it's important to open that up as well. So I'll do some rotations forwards, and then I'll go the other direction as well, just to, again, release everything, get those traps open, but also not having them take over in my shoulder movements. Arm circles. I like going backwards for these because we tend to spend a lot of our time hunched forward. And so this helps open up your chest, open up your shoulders again, and really focus on that intention behind, hey, we need the amplitude, we need to push our shoulder blades back and down. Front to backs are fantastic. Just again, opening up everything in the chest area as well as in the shoulders. You may not be able to go as wide with these, but that's okay. And then finishing up with some speed skaters as far as a rotational movement. I like adding in a rotation here in my core just to warm that up as well. We spend too much of our time sometimes going forwards and backwards, and so I like the rotational movement here. Last one, upper body, is going to be scapular retractions. Notice that I am keeping a lot of my weight in my hands, but my elbows are not bending during this movement. It's fantastic for back. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's video on dynamic warm-ups. I hope you guys found that helpful. Now, as I said in the video, I do customize that basic warm-up a little bit deeper based upon the body part that I'm training for that day. So I'll do, if it's glutes, I'll do a little bit more glute engagement. If it's like, in hips as well. If it's more of an upper body, then I'll do more upper body focused movements. So, if you want to see more of that, I can definitely dive deeper in future videos. So be sure to subscribe, like, comment below any questions that you have or anything like that. But I hope you found it helpful and that you use this kind of as a baseline for your warm-ups in the future. Remember, it's very, very important to take that seriously for your mobility, your flexibility, and your longevity in the sport of bodybuilding. So yeah, that'll do it for today's video. So yeah, I hope you guys have a fantastic day and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks.